You are now listening to Nexxlegacy Radio, a radio station for the people.
This is Charles Madison with Nexxlegacy Radio, and I have this wonderful guest. Cannot wait to dive deep into what this man is doing, has been doing, and everything else on this side of television and entertainment and movies and everything else. Not only just about to talk about the goddess of slide, the forgotten story of musician Ellen McElwain. I just want to talk about this man's career as well and how he's doing, what he's up to, and all that stuff, navigating through entertainment. And I want to welcome Alfonso Maiorana to Nexxlegacy. What's going on, sir?
Hey, Charles, how are you? I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored and humbled by this, actually.
Man, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to come hang out with us and the listeners that is listening, will be listening, and everything else to kind of talk about some things that you have going on. Now, we're going to talk about the goddess of slide for a minute, but I want to kind of pivot and start talking about just your career at a glance, because you are a award-winning producer and director representing Soul Flicker Films. And I just want to ask you, man, how did you get started doing what you're doing now?
Well, I'm going to give kudos to my mom, who was, at a very young age, she introduced me to music first, and then Super 8 films because of when we started vacationing, when we had enough money to vacation. So, I mean, that's my baptism to sort of entertainment and meaning music and films and television and all that. So that's where it all started. I was like 11 years old, but then, I really had the sort of fire and actually I was very curious about how I could get into film, because I wasn't sure if I could actually make it a career. I thought maybe this is a hobby or something like that. But so I went to communication studies, which here in Montreal, which at that time the university program where you could study, television, sound, broadcast journalism, photography, and film. And my intent was always film, but I thought it was a really good introduction to the arts, to sort of open up the mind and not just be a filmmaker, because I'm thinking, well, I'm so young, I can't be a filmmaker. I'm 18 years old. I want to sort of, explore all the arts that are part of that program. So that's how I all kind of started in terms of studying film. And as soon as I got out of film school, I wanted to direct. I had done mostly, as a cinematographer, other people's films in university. Mm-hmm. I thought that was the best way for me to understand, camera, light, and images, and architecture, and all that came with cinematography. And as soon as I came out, I'm a big music fan, and so I started right away, directing and producing and shooting music videos. And right. To me, at that time, it was a very freestyle way to express yourself and come up with ideas. Some were great, some were not so great, but it allowed me to experiment. And I think that was sort of the springboard for me to believe in myself and to believe that maybe I could be a filmmaker. So I have to sort of give kudos to that part of my career, at the beginning.
So you gave props to Mom, but also, just listening to you now, you kind of had an itch for it. Was there a specific song or a movie or something that you saw that triggered you to want to go to school and study and do a little bit more?
Yeah, I love that question, Charles, because my mom would show me these European films, like Italian and French films. And I always remember the first film that I would ask my mom, can I see it again? Can I see it again? Was 400 Blows by François Truffaut, Les 400 Coups, which is a story about this 11, 12-year-old, in school and playing hooky from school, And I just thought, wow, look at this whole movie is being told through the eyes of an 11, 12-year-old. And I thought, wow, I can connect with this film. And to me, that's the film that kind of like always profoundly influenced me, and it's the only poster that I have that's other than my posters, but it's the only giant size. It fits my whole wall in my studio room, and I've had it forever. Is the poster of that film, because it meant so much to me. Other the fact that studying like Italian cinema and then American films, which I started getting into as well, of course, as a teenager and then in university. But, The Bicycle Thief was my mom's favorite film, so I watched that I don't know how many times. Mm-hmm. And then, films from Orson Welles and then Francis Ford Coppola. And then for me, the turning point, I was living in Vancouver at the time, and I still hadn't done any short films or anything. And I was living in Vancouver with a high school university friend of mine, Juliet. Shout out to Juliet. She's from Barbados and now lives in Brooklyn. And we went to see Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing. And when I saw that movie, I watched the film, and we were both watching the movie. And then when we walked out, I turned to her. I said, we should watch this again, because it's so good. And it reminded me of my neighborhood. And so I thought, and then we went right back in, bought another ticket, and we watched it a second time, like back to back. And when I saw that, it gave me sort of like the courage to write my first short film. And so I have to sort of say that Spike Lee's film, Do the Right Thing, sort of like got me out of my shell, because I was doing music videos and also working on film sets as a camera assistant and then a camera operator. But when I saw Do the Right Thing, it just kind of said, okay, well, I have to do, stories about real life. Real life, to me, that's, from the neighborhood and from, life experiences. And I thought that movie kind of like propelled me to at least give it a try, and write what you know. And so I think that was the turning point for me. I mean, I have all these other amazing filmmakers that I love, like Coppola, for instance, for sure, and Orson Welles and Fellini and all these guys, Antonioni and Truffaut. But Spike Lee's film gave me a bit of, courage.
I think there's a lot of motivation in us. Like and it's good that you painted the story for not just for myself, but the listeners as well, because to me, I always believe in like people pay it forward. Sometimes there is a person or a certain situation where you could be motivated to do something or inspired to be something in regards for different chapters in life. So tell the listeners a little bit about not just how it made you feel to do that, but the want to do it. Like, sometimes there is sacrifice in trying to build your own path to who you want to be. And sometimes it's, working for a little less or, trying to be able to get a job that you can't get. There's a lot of different trials and tribulations that comes with it. So tell the listeners, just some of the obstacles that you had to deal with on your rise to what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, I think coming off what you just said, Do the Right Thing gave me the courage to try something, and also not be afraid to write about something that I experienced, because as a child or as a teenager, you go through lots of things, and then those same barriers exist when you're working in film. Anything you went through in your childhood suddenly show up in the film industry as well, in real life. And so I almost needed to make these films, or at least make films of something that I knew of and that I fought for, which would prepare me in the industry. And I think, once I got, there was no one in my family that was in film, so I was all by myself, really going out there, doing it. who do I ask for favors? Nobody. So I was just going out there and trying to do it. And I remember trying to be very like, somebody would offer me a job and to do something, well, you'll do this first before you do that. And I would say, well, I want to do that, So I would say, well, I'll do this for a day, but I want to be a camera assistant, I don't want to be doing something, coming out of film school. I mean, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't want to. So I think, it prepared me for the ups and downs. And I think that's why it was so important that I saw the timing of it all. When I saw Do the Right Thing, it was universal. It spoke to me, just like music. When you're, as a teenager, there's some sort of music that speaks to you, and then you're watching film, and sometimes it seems so far away. You're watching if I'm watching The Godfather, well, I don't know that world really, because I didn't grow up being. I mean, my parents are Italian and I'm Italian, but I don't know that world at all. So it was very entertaining, but and amazing the way it was done. Or Apocalypse Now. Well, I was never, in a war, living in Canada. I was not part of a military. I didn't know any of that stuff. But when I saw Do the Right Thing, I said, well, okay, Spike's doing something that he lived through, and it gives you a bit of courage to try. And even if it's not perfect, you fight for it. And I think it gave me that, in that industry, which is very difficult because there's a lot of no. For instance, my world of my first film, somebody said, well, you can't do this film. It's in 3 languages. I said, well, I don't know. That's my world. I grew up speaking Italian at home. I grew up in a French neighborhood, but my parents sent me to an Irish Catholic English school to learn a third language. I'm like, is this a smart thing? But so so the first 2 films I did, the 2 short films, it was just I needed to do it. Like I needed to. I mean, I won't do it now maybe, but I needed to do those films because that's what my life experience was. And when you're writing a script, most of it is inspired by and all that from what you experienced. And I think it gave me the courage to do that because it's not an easy field. And I just wanted my foot in the door, and that's why I thought ahead of time. I said, well, I'm not writing scripts as an 18-year-old, but maybe I can learn the camera and cinematography and lighting and photography. And that's what I wanted to do first, and I think it allowed me to work on film sets with really incredible DPs and directors, I mean, the DPs that I worked with are incredible, and I learned a lot because then they're working alongside directors and you learn that way, so that's what I was focusing on.
Well, you hit on something very, very important. Award-winning producer and director Alfonso from Soul Flicker Films is my guest on Nexxlegacy Radio, and you hit on something that I feel like a lot of people should really get or understand. Because sometimes you mention like, what, I'll do this job, but I want to do that one. You also said that if anything, I'm going to do this for a day, and then I want to go do that over there. So basically, what that makes me think that you set the terms and the standards on what it is that you want to do to progress moving forward. We always hear people like, not just in your position, but if you're an aspiring artist or if you're a musician or if you're, I'm just going to go ahead and do this maybe for 6 months, maybe a year, and then I'll go ahead and turn the corner and do something more. Some people will do that with their heart, but I don't think sometimes you can kind of conform to the company that you're around, and then you're stuck doing that for a long period of time. What was it about you in those situations that made you like, what, damn it, I'm just going to do this for a day, and if you don't like that, it's too bad.
I think it might have been my upbringing. I come from a low to middle class family. It was a rough neighborhood, and my dad, he didn't want me to fight, and he told me that, use words and your mouth, so, and he kind of instilled in me, like, I could tell, that he was, I could see the kind of work that he had to do every day, and my mom, both working in factories, and shift work and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes those jobs, are you eventually going to become a foreman? It might take you 15, 20 years or something like that. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, are you gonna move up and become a manager? And I didn't want to do that. I knew what I wanted to do, and I'd rather do that, fail one day, and then get on my feet again, because it's only 24 hours after I failed. Because I thought if I do this for 6 months or a year, and then I move up and I fail, oh no, I don't know if I would have been able to mentally have the support of overcoming failure, because I saw how hard my parents worked, and I didn't want to let them down also, and I thought, well, I know what I want, I just have to get there, but I'm gonna do that one day for you. And I can tell you, Charles, I remember the day I went in for an interview and I said, I want to be a camera assistant. And they said, well, we don't have any job, but we got something in the art department. I go, okay, well, what is it? Well, we need somebody to scrape the floors, because the studios are full of paint. And, that's going to take about a week, and then you can be part of maybe a buyer in the art department. I said, well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I go, I'm going to scrape the floor. And then I want an interview with the camera people. And I remember I had a ghetto blaster, and I had like music from The Clash, Bob Marley, Big Audio Dynamite. I was like listening to stuff that was, that reminded me of my favorite music. And then, as soon as I scraped that floor of excess paint, I finished, I hardly slept. I remember not sleeping and bringing a lunch. And then I went back into the office. I said, okay, it's all done. I want an interview with the camera, the DP. I'm not doing this. I did it. Right. It's all done. The job is over, and then he gave me a trainee job. So I was very happy, because so, I don't know if it was the fear of, the fear of being stuck doing something that maybe reminded me of all the hardship, not the hardship, but, what my parents did for me. They worked so hard. And the funny thing is that I went back when I was in university. I went to my dad's, factory where he was working in the summer, because they were paying students quite a lot of money if you were a university student. So I did that. So I worked next to my dad, where he had been working there since the age of 17. And, so trust me, once you do that experience, I don't think I wanted to do more than 24 hours or 48 hours on a job that wasn't what I wanted to do, So I don't know if it's a good message to people, but I certainly wanted to say, well, what do I like about film? Well, I like directing and shooting. So this is what I want to do. I knew that I needed to get there, and quickly, or at least, because when you're passionate about something, I can't suppress that passion for 72 hours a week or 6 months. I don't know what I would do.
That's where I always hear, and I've been in this business of radio and media for over 17 years, and I've seen so many people be so passive and not aggressive to own what you want to do and go through the steps. And sometimes you might have to turn down a job. Sometimes you might have to do something that you don't want to do, but you are aggressive in your progression, because what you said about passion is like, look, no, I intend on doing this, and I don't want to work with you for like 10 years in order for me to achieve what I need to achieve. I think it's important that people understand that. Time waits for whole person, period. So whatever it is you got to do, you have to make sure that you own it. You can't wait for a miracle because it may not come.
It may not come. And the other thing, that's a great point, Charles. The other thing is, like, if you accept to do that, and which I did, like, you know, like, do a job that you don't necessarily want to do, all you got to do is do it at 100% anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like, because then they'll say, okay, this guy really, this guy or this girl really wants it, and you know, they're working hard at it. Because if I would have done, you know, those 2 days and, you know, and maybe just sit back and listen to The Clash and Bob Marley and Big Audio Dynamite and just chill, and maybe, you know, finally it took me 3 days to do it. I don't know. I'm not sure that they would have felt the passion or the necessity that I wanted to get this. You know, I wanted to not skip the steps, but I wanted to get there. I'll do your job, and then give me that opportunity, you know. And maybe they felt it, you know, because I was definitely, I got there early. I did the whole thing. I hardly slept, and then I wanted an interview with the DP, you know. So I think, you know, in life sometimes you just have to, as you said, you know, be aggressive about it, and you know, and it's not like I didn't, you know, I had fun scraping the floor because I had music with me, and I did it because I thought, well, I got this job. He said yes to me doing this, and that means I'm going to get it. In my mind, I thought I was going to get it anyway. But, you know, you have to. It's a mindset, I guess.
And the win for you was you didn't have to do it for 10 years in order for you to get that.
No,
you did it.
No, that's exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, you don't have to. And then, you know, when you start doing stuff, when you start doing music videos or short films, it's okay to, you know, sometimes, you know, it's very, you know, art is very subjective, and not everybody's going to like your film or going to like, you know, your art, but you did it, you know, and you produced something, and I think that's you know, it's long term is very valuable, and so I always felt, you know, proud of myself. Whether the films, you know, if 3 out of 20 people liked my film, I was ecstatic. I was like, oh
yeah,
somebody got it, you know. I turned it into a positive. So, oh well, they like my kind of music, probably. You know, they like, you know, we have something in common, you know. So, you know, it's always I think
audience of one, or if it's an audience of 1 million, it's still gonna hold weight as like an accomplishment, because you know, a lot of people tend to not realize this as well. Like, the work that you do and giving it back to others is an accomplishment in itself, because you don't keep your talents in. You want to make sure that you give that out there to the people, which I think is super vital. So let's talk about what's happening on Wednesday, March 12th, with Goddess of Slide, the forgotten story of musician Ellen McElwain. And doing a little homework on her, I did not know, and I thought I loved all kinds of music and all kinds of different things. There's her backstory that I did not know. So what was your planning on doing this story? Now, I know she passed away in 2021, right? So how did this all come together?
Well, first, let me just say that there's a special screening going on in Toronto on March 9th, which will be a Toronto premiere with a Q&A, and then on March 12th on a streaming called CBC Gem. And so it's funny, the way sometimes it's kind of, you know, it's kind of fate or something, I'm not sure, but I was working on another film before called Rumble, the Indians Who Rocked the World, that won at Sundance in 2017, and a documentary, a music doc about the indigenous contribution to the history of music. And I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like, you know, I was co-director, co-writer, and the main cinematographer of that film. And there were big names, you know, like Quincy Jones and Martin Scorsese, the Ramones, Black Eyed Peas. I mean, you name it, you know. And while I was doing that film, which took about 4 or 5 years, I was filming with the Neville brothers. So I have to thank in particular Cyril Neville for my Ellen McElwain story. I was filming him, interviewing him for Rumble the Indians Rock the World in New Orleans, and there was a blackout. And we started talking, waiting to see if the electricity was going to come back. And he says to me, he goes, Alfonso, since you're doing, stuff on Link Ray, Link Ray, our brother, because they did Fire and Brimstone, which is originally a Link Ray song, and the song Rumble is the title, right? It's Link Ray's guitar song, instrumental that changed rock history. So he says, you got to go get this album at Peaches called the Guitar Album. All the greatest guitar players are there, Alfonso. You'll see Jimi Hendrix, you'll see Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Albert King, so he's naming all the greats, the men, obviously, of that era, And I said, okay. So the next day, Charles, I went over to Peaches, and he said it was a compilation album. He goes, there's one in 73 and one in 74. So I went there. The 73 album was sold out. And the 74, there it was. I looked at it, and I picked it up, and I turned it over, and it had Link Ray, Eric Clapton, Rory Gallagher, all these guitar heroes of the late 60s and 70s, the big boys. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, in the middle of there's this name. It says Ellen McElwain. And I'm like, wow, Ellen McElwain. And she had 3 songs, And one of them was Live at Carnegie Hall, 1973. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. That's pretty amazing. So anyway, I bought the album, and I went straight to the hotel. And and at that time, I was carrying always a portable record player when I was filming Rumble everywhere across the U.S. and in Canada, So I went straight to my hotel room. I opened the album. I put the vinyl on, and I went straight. I knew the other songs. I knew the other artists, and I went to this female artist, and I chose that song, that Live Carnegie Hall 1973. I put it on, and I got goosebumps. And I was like, oh, wow, what is this? I couldn't figure it out. Is there a bass player? And then I looked. It looks like it's just her, So that was 2014. And so then, I let it go, and I continued. And Rumble came out in 2017, and it wins Sundance and all that. And then one day, like a year later, in 2018, I received an email, and it said, "Hi, my name is Ellen." And wow. Her email didn't have her. It did not include her family name. It just said. So she goes, "Hi, my name is Ellen. I just want to say, it's about freaking time someone makes a movie about Indigenous contribution to music. It was really nice seeing some of my friends in your film." And she started saying, Jimmy, Robbie Robertson, Jimi Hendrix, I've seen the film 3 times this month. I'm telling all my friends, congratulations, Wow. And so I answered back. I said, "Oh, thank you very much, Ellen. Are you, for those kind words, are you in music yourself? Are you a musician, or are you just, a fan and all that?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah. My name is Ellen McElwain. I used to dabble in music. I guess my claim to fame is that I'm the only woman to ever share the stage with Jimi Hendrix for 6 nights in a row." And when she wrote that, I was like, what? and then I said, and then I said, wait a sec, I saw that, and then I looked in my office, and for 15 minutes I go, okay, Ellen McElwain, where do I know this from? And I looked in my vinyls, and I'm looking, and finally I pull out this album, the guitar album. I turn it over, and I see her name, and then I answer, "Are you Ellen McElwain from the guitar album?" And she answers back, "Yes, it's me." And I said, "Well, wow. Can I call you?" So that's how it all started, and then we had this relationship of because I had to convince her I needed to know about her life, and then she told me her life story, and I thought, oh my God, this needs to be shared with men and women. I mean, this is someone that is a pioneer, Charles, like a trailblazer, that someone that was totally unique. And so I had to convince her, to maybe make a film about her. And that's how I met the talented singer, songwriter, slide guitarist Ellen McElwain.
one of the first slide guitars, and also she dealt with what I consider a unfortunate trend of others telling her what she needed to either do, wear, play. And to me, it's kind of sad, Alfonso, because to me, I always thought music and movies and how you create it was something of an art form, right? Like, it's something where it's yours. Why would you want to copy somebody else? If somebody inspires you to do something or sound like something, you still want to make it your own, but you want to do it your way because it has your footprint on it all, right? And it's a trip to see, hear that. And Alfonso, it's been like this for generations on end. It's before we were even born. Why is that?
I think sometimes the industry, whether it's film or music, they need it to be a success, and they don't have that belief or the patience to let the artist grow. Why would you want a formula? Like, if you believe in a painter, a writer, a musician, or a filmmaker, let them grow. Let them share something new, something that really can reach not just you, the producer of music or film or whatever, but it needs to be universal. And the only way it could be universal to me is that if it's original. Because if it's not original, then it's not going to reach, in my opinion, it's not going to reach, a wide audience. It's going to be predictable. It's going to be something that you've already seen. So basically, and I see that today, I don't know about you, Charles, but, people are watching films, but are cooking at the same time. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, when I go, that's why I still go see a theater, because I go for the experience of seeing something I've never seen before.
Right.
And I love going to the theater because that's why I go to film festivals. I've been going to film festivals since I'm 17 years old, because you experience something that is utterly artistic. And it's the same like going to a concert, you want to see, if I love a guitar player or a piano player and a singer, well, I want to see that. I want to experience that live because I can see them. I can see everything about them, the way they move their hands, the way they move, the sound of their voice, all that stuff. It's to me, that's universal. And I don't know why, Ellen, they wanted to change her.
Yeah.
And it's very, and I'm going to tell you, like, when you look at Ellen McElwain's albums and the people that played with her, she is ahead of her time in a sense, because she had, she played with Billy Curtis, an amazing African-American drummer. Then there was another drummer who was from Montreal, who was like 19. And then she had like a Cuban bongo player. Then she had like Europeans playing bass. I mean, it was diverse, and that's who Ellen McElwain was. Yeah. She was worldly already. And this is amazing because she's born in Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. She was adopted by missionaries that were already 50 years old, very conservative. But there was something in her that was ahead of her time, and that I think is music, in the sense that music to her was something not, it was open, it was creative, and when it's like that, there's no barriers to what she could do, and a lot of people called her like a world musician, and so I mean, she's scat singing in Japanese,
Wow.
Her voice, she had this gospel training because her parents were Southern, gospel missionaries, and all that kind of stuff. So, but she played piano, harmonica, guitar, and the drums, and she learned all by herself, no lessons. So I mean, that's, you know, to me, it's like Stevie Wonder, right? How many instruments does Stevie Wonder play? I mean, people forget, you know, people see Stevie Wonder, they think he's just playing the piano. Well, I mean, you know that he played harmonica, but he can play every instrument. And he, you know what I mean? And that, those are, you can't tell Stevie Wonder, oh, you know what, we're going to take away the harmonica or this or that or that. Just do this, you know? No, you can't do that. And that's what they tried to do to Ellen. And unfortunately, you know, maybe because she was a woman and in a male-dominated industry, you know, they managed to, like, you know, pound her on her, you know, to do what they wanted to do, and she just, you know, said no.
It's a crazy cycle that you know, the business is in regards to just, you know, people getting their credit and their appreciation for it, and they want to. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'm glad that you are not only creating this for her legacy and preserving it, as passionate as you are, from what I can tell about art, and music is art, and directing is art, and, you know, everything else is. I just think it's amazing that we could be able to talk about this and have an open and honest dialogue about just the progression of it. So this is going to be out in Toronto on the 9th of March, and then it will be on CBC Gem on March 12th, right?
Yeah, and today I got some good news in the sense that it's going to be in Los Angeles, most probably in theaters at the end of May or beginning of June. I'm crossing my fingers, but it's looking good, because she also had a following in Los Angeles, you know, like people like Taj Mahal and a lot of people, and the late Jessie Ed Davis, and they all knew who she was, you know. And so I'm hoping that it gets, you know, men and women, you know, she influenced men and women, you know, to pick up the guitar and do something unique. And so I hope that in Los Angeles, the film gets there, because I think, you know, I think it's a very personal film. And it was done during the pandemic. It was a difficult time for everyone. My mom had passed away during the pandemic, and then you know, Ellen, you know, I was working on Ellen's film. So yeah, I hope it makes it to LA, but it's looking good. So I'm crossing my fingers that it also reaches, you know, the West Coast. But but thank you so much, Charles, for this opportunity to share this with you, and I'm really grateful that we could speak about, you know, the forgotten story of Ellen McElwain, and you know, so thank you so much.
Totally love it. And Alfonso, where can people find you on social media, website? Can you give our listeners direction as far as where they can be able to reach out to you as well?
Yeah, so I have on my personal Instagram, which is @Alfonso Maiorana, all in one word. You can also look me up on my website, which is also alfonsomaiorana.com. And for the film, it's at Instagram and Facebook page. It's basically @Goddess of Slide, all in one word. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Alfonso, not only is it an honor and a privilege to have this dialogue with you, I would love to have you back live, video, well, maybe not live, but a video interview, you and I, and we can kind of discuss it after it's released on, you know, after the 12th of March. I just feel like we need to keep this machine rolling as far as remembering our greats, but also appreciating the work that you do, because as I stated in the very beginning of our interview, it's important to start with you and what motivates you, and maybe this right here can motivate someone else to be the next Alfonso Maiorana.
Well, it would be a pleasure. I would love to continue this, because you know, I think, you know, you were asking very important questions, and like I said earlier, you know, I'm always when someone asks me about, you know, helping them in the industry, I basically say what I just said, and I'm glad to help. You know, I'm glad to give them advice whether they take it or not. You know, because the industry is a difficult one, but you need to really sort of follow your passion and be aggressive about it, and hopefully, you know, that's what it means to be an artist, whether it's music or film. You know, so and it's the same for you, right? What you do, which is great, being on the radio and preparing yourself. It's an art form as well, you know. So
absolutely.
So yeah, that'd be great. That would be great, Charles. I would love to connect as soon as the March 9th and March 12th release of the film on CBC Gem.
Absolutely, and I thank you for coming on to Nexxlegacy Radio, but also thank you for continuing to preserve and to keep pushing forward a legacy that you are creating and that you are paying it forward that for others like Ellen as well. So thank you so much. And
this is why you need Nexxlegacy in your life. Ready to build your legacy? Welcome to Nexxlegacy Radio, the #1 station for the people. Here we empower aspiring artists and businesses with the best hip-hop and R&B, mixed with motivational content for your personal growth. Subscribe now and join our community. Don't forget to share the love, spread the word about Nexxlegacy.